So we were in the office the other day and we were having a laugh. One of the guys who works for me asked me a question, just said, how did you get into all this? How did this all start, or how did you get into film? And it's a question that I've been asked like over the years at different times. How did this all start? You know, I've always talked about whenever I lost my job and I end up on unemployment, and I found my escapism by getting into an acting class. But I've never actually talked about being in that acting class and going through the process and going through becoming an award-winning filmmaker and actually having movies be distributed, be sold around the world, and also just like on a shoestring. We made so many movies at the time, back in the day, feature films that have since been distributed, that have since like went on to win awards, as I say, and they're screened in cinemas, and we had so much fun while making it. I want to just say, like, you know, there is a way to get into film. Everybody's route is different, by the way. This is not something that I would suggest you just do and then you'll fall into the same way that it happened for me. Everybody's different. But by taking the initiative and going to that first acting class is how everything starts, and it's really where everything started for me, and it's something that I enjoyed massively. I actually just started going through a few different of the movies, and we were watching some of the clips back, seeing some of the movies I acted in, and we literally laughed our heads off in the office. So I want to talk a bit about them, just to point out that I'm extremely proud of every single project that I've ever worked on. Some of them are very low budget, but it led me to where I am right now, working with a film production company and a digital media agency, and how storytelling back then through acting and scripts is so important now and runs through every single aspect of every business I have and will do in every business in the future. So I just wanted to start right back at the start and go in chronological order and to say like how I get into acting. So I had just moved to Dublin, and I texted one of my friends who I knew lived down there, and he was in acting as well. He just had been in a play, I think it was in the Abbey at the time, and I said, hey, you know, I know you're into acting, could you recommend any acting classes? So he just texted me back saying, try the Irish Film Academy. I went straight onto Google, I messaged Irish Film Academy, the phone number came up and I rang it, and I got speaking to Rachel Sarah Murphy. Rachel said, yes, we have a Wednesday class and a Monday class, which one do you want to do? I went to my first acting class, and I got into it at that point. I was so nervous. I couldn't even really read the scripts because I'm dyslexic. I was put into a group of people that I didn't know, and I was very anxious, very nervous, but also underlying very excited because I thought the possibilities here are endless. I sort of had seen movies, I'd saw different actors, and I thought, what if I ended up becoming like a really good actor and this ended up being my career? So I had that question, so it made me go every Monday and every Wednesday night. Now we all got put into one class, a Tuesday and the Thursday at one point, and I think I was going for like 4 nights a week, helping people out with filming their scenes, helping people out with learning lines, and I was starting to love it. In the Irish Film Academy, there was a great opportunity because Rachel would have always brought in guest directors, guest speakers, people who worked on vocal, coaching, all different things. She brought in a director to work on one of the courses, and his name was Jason Figgis. Now Jason was a director, he had done many different feature films at that point. He'd done genre, he'd done TV, he'd worked with, you know, Discovery Channel, he'd worked on loads of different things. He was well established, and he was back living in Ireland, and he was coming in and teaching us in our classes. Me and Jason really hit it off, and I loved taking direction from him. He loved giving direction. Jason then asked me would I play a role in his up-and-coming low-budget feature film, Children of a Darker Dawn, I think it was called at that time, and I jumped at the chance. That's number one. Take your opportunities whenever they come. Opportunities will present themselves. If it brings you closer to your goal, I want to be an actor, then you say yes and you go do it. Whenever I got on set, I was covered in so much makeup and so much blood, and I was only in it for like a split second with no actual lines, so no one would have even recognized me at that point, but I didn't care. I got on set, I got to see what was happening behind with makeup artists, with costume, with lights, and I was starting to get a really good buzz for it. I was asking questions. I just wanted to know every single thing about it, and thank God that I did ask all those questions, because it has led me to having my own film production company. That movie has since been distributed. You can buy it online. You will not see me in it because it's like a split second, and I've got so much makeup on, my mum or dad probably couldn't even pick me out. I went back into my acting class the next week, and Jason had another project coming up at that time, and he asked me would I be in it and be supporting lead actor. Now, for me, this was absolutely huge. I was thinking, oh my God, I've only been in this acting class for 6 months. I've met an amazing director. He's given me an opportunity to be in a movie. I'm going to take it. So I jumped in, and that was then into my second movie, which was called The Ecstacy of Isabel Mann. In The Ecstacy of Isabel Mann, I had a much bigger role. I played Sergeant Paul Barrett, and that was really good fun. We shot it in the summer of 2012. Halfway through that, we ended up falling into some financial difficulties, and we weren't able to finish the movie. I was saying, look, what needs to finish this movie? And he said, look, we need a producer to come on and help us finish the movie. And I said, well, what does a producer do? And Jason said, well, he, organise the shoot, organise this, does that. And I said, look, I could do this. I had been working as a refrigeration engineer in a previous life, and I'd been working on sites and doing installations. And you need an electrician, or you need a pipe fitter, and you need someone to work on the drains, you need a plumber. So this was the same thing. I pretty much just needed people. But I knew, okay, I need a cameraman, okay, they need to be fed, okay, I need a location, how do I do this, how do I get this? And I ended up finishing off that movie, and that was my first producer credit. After I'd done that production job, I knew acting isn't really my thing. I do like it, but production is something that I absolutely love. I nearly didn't go to the Irish Film Academy. I nearly didn't go there because I was so nervous. But me, by saying yes to that, going, persevering even through my nerves, I ended up meeting people, I ended up meeting directors, and I'm now into my second movie, which has also been distributed. Most of the stuff that I've done has been distributed, which is great. Definitely great to go back and watch them if you want to, if your genre and your thing. And that was into my second project. So the next movie that I worked on was called Don't You Recognize Me? Again, another experimental piece by Jason Figgis, but this was different. We shot this movie in 24 hours. The only money we spent on this was €225, which was the camera hire for a documentary film camera hire. Now, it took a lot of preparation. I was producing it at the time. I had to be very encouraging with other actors and say, look, we don't have a budget for this, but do you want to be a part of an experimental piece? That movie has went on to do great things in the genre that it sits in. So how did we do that for €225 to €250 and end up being an award-winning film? We got together with other filmmakers that wanted to be a part of something as well. We had no budget for actors, we had no budget for cast and crew. So what we done was we ended up incorporating a cameraman into the movie. So it was a mockumentary, so we brought him into it. So not only was he using his equipment, but we'd also hired an extra camera, and we'd also, everybody that was working on it was featured in the movie as well. It was about a documentary filmmaker, so it was able to shoot both ways behind the camera. You were able to see me and the crew, and you were able to see the actors that played their part in it as well. Jason wrote and directed it, but he also edited this piece. Because it actually went through, whenever we pulled all the footage into a timeline, it was actually quite easy to edit because we were able just to chop out and tell the story. The story was so well crafted with him as the director and the writer, and then the actors were so well versed on what they had to do in the improv scenes, that we were able to just bring all the footage in, cut that movie up, and put the first draft of it together relatively quickly. That movie went on to screen at the Starburst Film Festival and got like a 7-page spread in their magazine. Starburst Film Festival is a great festival. It's all based around horror movies. Darren Travers, who was playing lead actor, I was supporting lead with him. Both of us were the two main characters. He ended up winning Best Actor at the Starburst Film Festival awards. So that was crazy. So we had took that movie, which we spent €250 on, shot it in 24 hours, went on to win Best Actor in an award ceremony, and went on to be distributed. You can get it on Amazon, you can buy the DVD. So again, something that I'm very proud of. Crazy to watch, whenever you go back to watch them. Very genre pieces, not for everybody, I get that, but I really enjoyed making it, and I did enjoy watching it as well, to be honest with you. I really did, and I'm really proud of it and glad that I done it. I think that we're probably just going to follow them here, so come on. Guys, whereabouts, what do you want to do then? What's happening next?
We have a nice little surprise for us.
You have what?
A nice little surprise. I'm going to bring you something that shows the heart of the operation.
So if you're into acting or into production or anything like that, and you're working on low budget projects, and you sort of think in the long days, you're starving, it's cold, it's wet, there's no budget for anything, and you think, what the F am I doing this for? There is nuggets of everything through every project. Now, on set, you can have maybe 20 people, 10 people, whatever it may be, but they all come from different jobs. So one person can lead you to your next project, or one person can recommend you to your next director, or give you a script that you might want to read. Through all these jobs, I met people, Alan Rogers, who shot some of my movies, Kevin Tracy, who shot some of my movies, working with directors, Ger Walsh. Through all the relationships that I was building, they were leading me to my next job. The budgets were growing, the team was growing, and I was really excited about moving into each one. So the first movie that I didn't star in but produced was a movie called Urban Traffic. This again was with October 11 Pictures, Jason Figgis' company. Jason really gave me free rein to say, look, just go, learn your craft, and it's something I'm very grateful for and I'll never forget. I really do appreciate it. Urban Traffic was with a host of actors from an acting class, and we went on to shoot a feature film for it, and it was something that was really enjoyable at the time. Actors got a chance to not only do the workshops in the class, but then step onto set and get the experience of working on set with a working director, full crew, and we had a lovely movie at the end of it.
He's finding little ways to keep trying to torture me, to keep trying to break me, and I'm not going to let him.
At this point, I was loving making movies, being a part of them in front of the camera and behind the camera. And even though I took it seriously, I don't know how much I was really taking it serious, because I was still on unemployment. I was learning my craft, of course, but I needed to think, okay, I'm sick of being broke. How am I going to turn this into more of a profitable business? And how am I going to start getting budgets for my movies? How am I going to end up building a business out of this? And on the 1st of August 2014, Bankhouse Productions was born. The first movie that we done is a movie called South.
Rest of your life.
So I say goodbye. Turn away, then I close my eyes and roll the dice again.
I got approached by a director, Ger Walsh. He sent me a movie that he watched. He had made a movie called A Day Like Today, and he made it for €600. Now, whenever I watched it, I was thinking, how the hell did he make this for €600? It's brilliant. He got some really good actors, some actors that featured in Game of Thrones. So see, he sent me over a script called South, and he said the only thing is, this movie, we have to have it made before the 27th of September, because the lead actor is in a TV show called Red Rock, and I want him clean shaved for this role, but he has to have stubble whenever he goes back. This was in the middle of August, and we were going to shoot a feature film that had to be wrapped by the 27th of September. And I was thinking, this isn't going to be possible. I don't think this is. Again, I love a challenge. And the one thing that I definitely think stood to me was my naivety. I didn't know that you weren't meant to do this stuff. I hadn't went to film school. I hadn't went to anything like that. So I was doing things that other people that had went to film school said maybe wasn't impossible. We pulled that movie together relatively quick, got an amazing actress, Emily from Northern Ireland, Dara from the south of Ireland, and we told this story. It was a beautiful story about a guy who his father passes away and he travels to Dublin to find his mother from Galway, and it's a road trip story. It's set over 2 days, and it was a joy to watch. The buzz on set was brilliant. Ger was loving it with the actors. I started working with a DOP, Kevin Tracy, at that time, who we went on to be really good friends. He shot a few of my movies, and we ended up making South, and it was just such an enjoyable process. I think if you look at total for the whole budget of that movie, we made it for less than 20,000, probably less than 15. Ger put a good bit of money in himself. We hustled some money out of other people. We got some, bartering deals for locations and things. and we made that movie for in around 20,000. Now we have went on to sell that movie to RTE. We sold it to In-Flight Entertainment with Aer Lingus. It's won awards. It's won like 3 Best Feature awards in festivals. It's screened out in America in festivals. It's done loads of festivals all over Europe and the US. And it also played in cinemas. We also got a cinema release on that. Now that was my first independent feature film in Bankhouse Productions in 2014 into 2015 without actually knowing what I was doing. I genuinely was learning as I went. One of my friends had bought me a book, What a Producer Does, and I read that. Well, I read most of it, and that actually gave me the incentive to, right, okay, this is what I need to do next. Okay, this is what needs to happen next. One major achievement for South was the fact that it premiered at the Galway Film Festival. Now this was the first time that I'd ever done this, and it was something that I'd set a goal that I really wanted to do. And whenever it did do it, I was very proud of that. Me and Ger both really enjoyed the night. Our families were there. We were able to, all the actors were there. And you know, even with the buzz around the set of making that movie, I had a feeling it was going to do really well. I really did feel that it was going to do well. And it lived up to every single thing in our imagination that we believed that it could do. So South was my first movie, my first proper movie, produced by my own independent production company, where I had free control over it. It wasn't sit within a genre. It was more mainstream, and we were able to like get it on TV, sell it into cinemas, do in-flight entertainment, and win awards with it. So I'm very proud of that movie as well. As I've said, I'm very proud of all the films that I've made, and working with Ger Walsh was something. Then I was like, I want to do this again. So Release is the next movie that I made. It is about an MMA fighter who comes out of prison, and he's trying to find his way back onto the straight and narrow, back in the area that he lives, sleeping on his mom's sofa, and all the challenges that he faces throughout that period. So this was written and directed by Ger Walsh, and was filmed as a part of feature film school, my acting school. All the actors go in, they sit down with the director, they workshop the movie, and then we move the whole project onto set, and then we film the movie. And they get experience of not only workshops of working with a director, but also working in front of the camera on a real live working set. They're getting to see how it works, they're getting experience, they're getting original showreel footage, and it really does offer an opportunity for them to move on and to further their acting careers. Release ended up screening at the Galway Film Festival as well, something that me and Ger were very proud of. This was the second year in a row that we had 2 features running.
You find yourself in a situation that you don't want to be in. You gotta make a choice. And if you fuck up and it goes wrong, you can't blame anybody else but yourself.
So the next movie that I got introduced to was called Static, and Kevin Tracy, who'd shot a few of my previous movies, was actually producing this. He said, look, this is funded by NI Screen. Do you want to jump on board and give me a hand producing it? I think it's a great team. I really want you to meet this director, and there's a good cast on it. You don't have much to do, but I'd love your support. And I said, yeah, do you want to know what? Let me jump on, I'll have a look. And this is where I got introduced to Daniel F. Holmes, a director. He's from Chicago, half family in Belfast. He was in Belfast at the time, up and coming talent. Was being funded by NI Screen. This was his second project. His first project done really well, The Light of My Eyes, I think it's called. It's probably wrong, but I didn't work on it. Static was his next project that was funded by NI Screen. Jerry McSorley was lead actor, along with Martin McCann, 2 brilliant actors that I had watched grow up from I was growing up, and I was thinking, I've got an opportunity to work with these guys. This is fantastic. I'm very glad to call Marty a friend right now, and I thank Kevin for introducing me to this project and forming these relationships. Daniel and me have went on to work on many different projects together, and we're now business partners on a couple of businesses. Static ended up, it won Audience Award at the Irish Chicago Film Festival. He had a homegrown audience there that all tapped in to watch it, and done really well whenever it was out there being screened. NI Screen were very happy with it. We were all happy with the end project, and I was delighted to build those working relationships. So that brings me to my next project, Dive. This was the second project that we had done through Feature Film School. And the next director that I was working with was Daniel F. Holmes. I had such a good relationship with him on Static that I thought, look, would you like to come and be a guest director at our school and teach the class, and then we go on to make a movie. I explained the whole process to him and he was really excited and he jumped on board immediately, and we made the movie called Dive. Now, there was workshops for like 3 to 6 months with the actors back and forth, writing the script, making sure that they were happy with it. But when we actually went on set to turn on the cameras on Dive, we set ourselves a very extremely unrealistic deadline. From the day that we turned on cameras, from the first day that we turned on cameras to be released in cinemas nationwide, we had the premiere and then we released in cinemas nationwide, was 66 days. Now, anybody who's worked in film, will understand how insane that is and how intense that is. Something I'm very proud of, but also it completely and utterly burnt all of us out. Fractured relationships with stress, I'm not going to lie, we built them again, thank God, but it was a very stressful time and not something I would actually do again. I'm very glad to look back and say yes, I was able to do that, but Dive is one of the best movies that I've done and I'm really, really proud of it. So in Ireland there was a movement, Repeal the 8, where it was giving women rights where they could have control over their bodies if they wanted to, have an abortion or not, right? So it was a massive hot topic in Ireland at that time. Everybody was talking about it. You couldn't walk down the street without, posters being up. And because Daniel had only moved to Dublin, he didn't understand what was going on. He was thinking, what is this? What is actually happening? He became obsessed with the project, obsessed with the movement, and ended up writing a script around that. Dive ended up becoming a part of that movement. The working budget with this movie was about 60,000. Now the budgets are increasing from 250. I'm up to 60,000, but also I had done deals with Kevin. We both produced this together. Kevin brought so much value to this with his company, Promenade Post Production. So the budget was way more than the 60,000 that we spent, and because he brought so much in kind, and because it was his project. So again, the budgets are growing. How to build budgets, we'll talk a bit about that after. And we went on to win awards with Dive as well, again, which is brilliant. And it also just formed relationships, it built friendships, and also working relationships. People that I worked with on that got brought onto my next project. But this movie ended up getting turned around in 66 days, nationwide cinema release, and something I'm really proud of. And I never will be able to say that again, because I don't plan on doing another movie within 2 months.
I went down in the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the robe and crown? Good Lord, show me the way. Oh, brothers, let's go down, let's go down, come on down. Come on, brothers, let's go down, down in the river to pray.
So during this whole process, I was also filming a documentary called The Evolution of Success. I was traveling around the world and thinking and speaking to thought leaders in personal development, how they had went from training themselves out of the gutter to making huge successes out of their lives and businesses. I had been filming this since 2015. I'd been traveling to LA. I'd been going around by myself and sometimes brought a videographer with me. But a lot of the time I actually just pulled out the tripod, sat our Canon C300 on top, mic'd them up and done the interview myself. So I had been building all this footage all the way through. Because me and Daniel aligned so much throughout our film making and through the work that we were doing, I asked him would he like to get involved with this project, and he ended up finishing off that project and directing it. And it's a movie that is done so well. It's online. It's actually free at the minute on the evolutionofsuccess.com. You can go and watch it. It's got Jack Canfield, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul. It's got Bob Doyle, who was in The Secret. It's got Joe Vitale, who was in The Secret, Natalie Ledwell from Mind Movies, and a host of other people. It's based in the personal development space, and it really does show you how to get from A to Z. A lot of the stuff that I actually do on a daily basis that has brought me from unemployment to having several successful businesses is what I do is in that movie. But the funny story is, we were doing that movie as we were doing Dive. We were finishing it off. We premiered The Evolution of Success in Las Vegas on I think it was the 10th of May, and we premiered Dive in Dublin on the 17th of May. We had 2 major premieres, sold out at 2 different sides of the world, while doing this movie within 66 days. You know, it was one of the most stressful times of my life, and I did get a bit of PTSD from it, but you got to be careful what you wish for, because at that moment I just had to sit in a bit of gratitude and say, all I ever wanted at one point of my career was this, you know, and now I've got it, so just shut up and enjoy it.
I have not always been to this point in my own personal evolution, and if I can do it, anyone can do it.
The people in this documentary motivated me step by step through every single stage of this, and now they're going to help you exactly the same way they did with me and millions of others, because where you are right now, there's a good chance some of them are there as well. So at this point, Bankhouse Productions had a series of successful runs in feature film and short film, award-winning cinema release and distribution. So we were getting a lot of scripts sent to us. I was working with producer Toman. She just had arrived back from Canada. She was in the office with me in Temple Bar, and we were constantly going through scripts and constantly going through different projects that we would love to work on. I had met a director, Megan Fox, back in about 2016, and she sent me over a script, and I was like, Megan, I love your script, but it's just too heavy for where I am right now. She'd sent me over another one whenever I was working with Karen, and both of us just said, look, we've just come off a few heavy-hitting movies, we'd love something funny. Megan went away, had ended up a script had presented itself to her. She came back to Bankhouse Productions and said, would you like to make this? And I read it, and me and Karen both laughed our heads off. We were thinking, this is hilarious. So the short film is called The Shift, and it's written by Mairead Kiernan, it's directed by Megan Fox, and it's produced by Karen Toomey. 3 very powerful women in the film industry. I was delighted to be a part of it and work as the executive producer, and Bankhouse Productions is to be the overarching production company. I was looking for opportunities to work with Megan over the years. This presented itself. It was funded by an organisation down in Cork, and then it got to screen at the Cork Film Festival. The Shift went on to win the best Cork short, and it went down a storm. It was hilarious. It's about a teenager who's at the Gaeltacht, and at the last dance of the night, she's determined to get the shift. Now, anybody who's outside Ireland, the shift is like having a kiss, having a snog, having relations with someone, and she was a 15-year-old, and she was thinking, I'm at the Gaeltacht this whole time, I haven't even shifted anybody, I'm determined to get the shift tonight. It was a comedy, and it was absolutely hilarious.
Balls to the wall.
The next project that Bankhouse Productions done was a documentary called Street Leagues. It follows the men and women of an organisation called the Irish Homeless Street Leagues that are battling through drink, drugs, just out of prison, homelessness, so many different challenges that they've faced throughout their lives. This organisation brings them together. Sean Kavanagh created the organisation back in the 2000s at some point. He also runs the Big Issue, and it's been his mission that every year he brings a team to the Homeless World Cup, where the players get to represent their country, play with all other countries around the world. It's just like the World Cup, only everybody in it is homeless or maybe just out of prison or been through a certain amount of challenges that you have to hit to be involved in the project, and then you go and you represent your country. We had the opportunity to follow the team and to follow them through this whole journey. This was like the most beautiful documentary that I've worked on. It's very emotionally charged. One of the executive producers, Carly Hamilton, had approached me and said, Matthew, I've got this project I'd love to bring to you. Would you have a look at it? I sat down, had a chat with her and said, look, I'm not really ready right now to do another project. We've been very busy and I'm focusing on something else right now. She said, please meet with Sean and then we'll discuss it. I met with Sean Kavanagh, and then by the end of that meeting, I knew that we had to do this. We ended up going to Oslo, following the team around it. And also, very fortunately, Colin Farrell is the ambassador of the Homeless World Cup, and he's the patron of Irish Homeless Street Leagues. Now, Colin obviously has a very busy schedule. I happened to be in LA at that time. He was back in LA in between jobs. Charlie had put a call into his his management okayed it, and it just happened that on the Friday we got the okay. On the Sunday I was sitting in his house filming an interview with him that featured in the documentary, and also brought a lot of kudos to it whenever we were getting it into festivals or getting distribution for it as well, because Colin is an A-list Hollywood actor, and he's very passionate about the Irish Homeless Street Leagues, and this is something that he was delighted to be a part of as well, which is great. Now bear in mind, you know, we're coming from like a 250, renting a camera, shooting a documentary in like 24 hours as an experimental piece, to now working with Hollywood actors, and all this comes just from connections and just different things that happen throughout your whole career. Your path will be different than mine, but it doesn't mean that it can't, you know, be way even more successful and work with much more Hollywood actors, you know, throughout your film career. I think that is the most important thing, to have that belief that you can do it. And if you do have that belief, it's a good place to start, because there's a good chance that it's going to happen. Street Leagues is an organisation that I'm really glad to be connected with. We ended up going on to screening at the Dublin International Film Festival. It was the last festival of 2020 that ended up the world shut down just shortly after that. So we got screened in the last film festival of 2020. We went on to get a special commendation for our work in human rights, or work in film and human rights, at the ICCL Awards. Daniel got up and accepted the award, and spoke a bit about why he felt it was important for him to work on this project and what he brought to it. By the way, Daniel directed this. I didn't mention that at the start. Even though the world had shut down in 2020, I was really determined on getting Street Leagues out there. Now we've since done a distribution deal with it, but we've also done a cinema release. We were able to roll it out all over Ireland, north and south of the border. We got a lot of press around it, and we got a lot of people engaging in the organisation. We've got people running the movie in schools, raising money for it, and we got it into the First Fortnight Film Festival. They also raised money for it. This is all about raising awareness for the Irish Homeless Street Leagues and the Irish Homeless World Cup. That was our goal at the start of this project. Taking the stories that were, you know, these human stories from amazing people, and just putting them on camera and allowing them just to show how successful they have become after going through this organisation and going through coming back from the World Cup and turning their lives around. It's an amazing organisation. It's something I'm really delighted to be a part of, and it's to raise awareness around it. All of the profits from the cinema release that we ran all went to charity. You know, there was so much money that we give back. This project again it was self-funded by Bankhouse Productions. And it was paid for our media agency, Bankhouse Media. That's how we sort of do it. Any projects we're really passionate about, we can take money from one business and pump them into another. Now we've got distribution on that project, so that'll do well anyway. But we were really glad to be able to self-fund this and to bring this to distribution, to out there, to raise as much awareness and give as much money as possible back into the Irish Homeless Street Leagues.
It's not just about a sporting endeavour, it's further than that. It's about building self-esteem, self-confidence, and a sense of self-worth. You know, it's taken an unproductive life and given a person a chance to fulfil the potential that was always there.
All the boundaries that usually separate us, whether it's class, whether it's some kind of social structure that's hard to pinpoint, whatever it may be, all those boundaries are torn down, and it's just a bunch of human beings who are there trying to better their own lives.
I truly believe that if anybody wants to work in film or wants to work in acting, that they can. All you have to have is a massive amount of belief and a massive amount of passion, because that's all I had at one point. I believed in myself. I believed that I could do it, and I had the passion to do so. I didn't care about money. I didn't care about getting paid. And what I've learned over the years is money comes. The more value you add to someone's business or someone's life, the more money you get paid. So it wasn't about that at the time for me. All I cared about was like learning more, getting to know more information about film, getting to know, how do I do this? What people do I need on set? How do I know someone that could do that? Where I went through a whole period of not figuring out how do I do this, but who can do this? What is the position that I need filled, and who's going to do it? This is exciting. This is absolutely brilliant. You know what I mean? It's good fun. You're making movies. It's not life or death, even though some days it might feel like life or death, you know, depending. But it's really good fun. It was something that I enjoyed, and I think anybody can do it. I have not stopped making movies by any matter whatsoever. We would have been filming our next documentary in 2020 if the world hadn't shut down, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes in like probably 2022 realistically, because I'm not going to try to do anything just yet. The only one thing thing that I'm thinking about is a podcast documentary where it's just audio, and I'm looking forward to exploring that a bit more. But I'm always looking forward for my next project. I'm always looking to see, is there an opportunity where I can add my skill set into that niche and be a success at it. Winning awards for my movies, I'm really happy and proud of. But there's so many people in the world would not even watch my movies if it was on Netflix. That doesn't matter. I'm just glad that I was able to start, and every project is better than the last. That is what my main focus is, and just knowing that every project's getting better, and you have that end goal of where you want to be, sit within the film industry. At the start, mine was acting. It very much sits in production right now, and that's what I love to do, and I'm really excited to see what the future holds. If you like this video, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. In the description below, I've linked all the trailers to all the movies that we talk about, and you see some dodgy acting from me, and then you see some production coming through and some amazing work from some very talented directors that are based in Ireland and America. And yeah, thank you for watching.